Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to The Plant Path. I'm Sage Apopum, founder of the School of Evolutionary Herbalism and Natura Sophia Spagyrix. And there's a nebulous, mysterious word that pervades the halls of herbal medicine, and the word is tonic. What does tonic even mean? This is a question that really confused me, honestly, for probably over a decade. And I feel like I figured a little something out, or maybe I didn't figure anything out. Maybe I just sat down and took the time that I needed to think it through in a way that made sense to me. But I thought this through in a way that made a lot of sense to me and has helped me in my understanding of this word tonic. And I thought I would share my thoughts on it with you because maybe it would help you out as well. Do you know what tonic means? I mean, tonic is one of those things that's like, oh, well, in this context, it seems to mean this. And in that context, it seems to mean that. And I see it attached onto this other word over here and attached onto that other word over there. And they got the Chinese way of seeing it. And the traditional Western thing is, it's like, what's the dotted line that connects all these seemingly very random and disparate ways of seeing and understanding this word? Like, what is the thing that binds them together? Because even comparing Western definition of tonic to the Eastern use of the term, they seem very different. But even within Western herbalism, I think there's some variance among, or in terms of what this word means. So it's very confusing. For a very long time, every time I heard that word, I was like, what does that even mean? So let's break this word down. Let's break down the word tonic, provide some perspective on it, so that when you see it in your stacks of herb books, you'll have a better idea as to what it means and can maybe translate a little bit better what particular branch of the definition is being used, because I actually think that there are 4 classes of tonics that we can consider from an herbalist perspective. And for me, once I kind of got these 4 classes of tonics mapped out, and then I ultimately see how they all ultimately are aimed towards this singular, I guess, final goal, or they're pointing towards a singular therapeutic result that you're looking for 4 different strategies to get to, hopefully, ideally the same result. It just made a lot of sense to me. So according to the dictionary, tonic means, quote, a medicinal substance taken to give a feeling of vigor or well-being. Further down that list, it also says, quote, relating to or restoring normal tone to muscles or other organs. I'm going to repeat that. A medicinal substance taken to give a feeling of vigor and well-being. Could we get any more nebulous than that? What the hell does that even mean? To me, I think that is just about the most useless definition of a medicinal action that we could possibly imagine. Like, think of the word demulcent as an herbal action. That is a very particular word with a very specific definition that expresses a very specific physiological response within the body that's used for a very specific set of symptomatic patterns, right? It's a very clear, linear, logical word with a very practical application, right? Something that gives a feeling of vigor or well-being. It's like, well, that could be anything, right? Someone might take a pinch of cayenne pepper and go, woo, I feel vigored from that. And someone might take a shot full of skullcap tincture and go, oh, that really increased my well-being. It's like, from that context, anything could be a tonic. And I think this is where we hear that more colloquial term, like something is a, quote, health tonic, right? What's a health tonic, right? What's a tonic bar, right? What does this word mean? I mean, it's so funny how many different contexts we see this word, and I don't think anybody even really knows what it means. So, I mean, it seems the main agreed upon thing is that a tonic is something that increases your health. Well, everybody's health is a little bit different, right? What increases the health of one person might decrease the health of another person, and vice versa. And so, from an herbal perspective, when we're thinking about vitality, they say vigor and well-being. What does that mean? Well, to me, that when I think of increasing vigor and well-being, I think of vitality. I think of the concept of the vital force, which is that we have within us a highly intelligent, sophisticated, self-regulating force within our body, that when provided everything that it needs, it keeps us healthy, right? It instills with us a feeling of energy when we need it, of tiredness when we need it, of hunger when we need it, of satiation. Right? It's like our body is able to follow its natural rhythm, its natural cycle, its natural harmony with nature. And that to me is vitality, right? And to me, that vitality, our organ systems are working properly, ultimately will promote longevity. And I think that vitality also has a reflection within our emotional state, our psychological state, and yes, even our spiritual state. To me, vital force permeates all layers of the self, permeates our whole being, because the vital force literally is the organizing principle. It is what keeps us all together. It's what keeps us cohesive. It is what unifies all layers of the self into a wholeness, right? And that is really at the foundations of nature, of the nature of how a human being is constituted. So when I think of these terms, right, vigor and well-being, I think of vitality. Well, if we think of medicinal substance that increases vitality, well, vigor and well-being, what is going to give vigor and well-being to one person may not do it in another. So now it's like we got to pull back and we got to look at, well, in that case, then a tonic is something that should be almost universally applicable, right? So then we ask, what are the things that, regardless of who you are, what your state of health, what are the things that are going to promote health for everyone universally, right? What essential systems in the body make us feel vital and healthy? What do we do every day to keep us alive, keep ourselves alive, vital, and healthy? So really thinking about what are the universals that we could really say about anybody that would promote this state of vitality or vigor and well-being. And to me, at the root of all of these, the answer is pretty simple, that the root of all of these questions lies the fundamental determinants of our health. Sleep, hydration, movement, exercise, purpose, meaning, and diet and nutrition. And I think that, and to me, these are the five elements, right? The five elements that are the fundamental determinants of our health. With our earth element is our diet and nutrition. Water element is hydration of water and oil. Air element would be our psychological health, our cognitive health and sleep. Our fire element would be our activity levels, right? Movement, aka exercise. And fifth element, ether, would be our, I would say, spiritual connection, purpose, meaning, something greater than the self, something that guides our moral virtue, something that is a guiding principle for life. These are the things that I think ultimately are the baselines that determine our state of health or lack of health, and therefore our state of vitality or lack of vitality, or vigor or well-being, right? So what's at the root of that? I would say that a lot of this really comes down to the digestive system and nutrition. Our baseline nutrition status and our body's capacity to properly digest, absorb, assimilate those nutrients, and expel the waste products. That process is the root of the vital tree. If that root is unhealthy and not functioning well, the entire system is not going to be functioning well, and you are not going to feel vital and healthy. And as we will see, I believe that this is where we start to see this term tonic and start to express itself through various means in the realm of herbal medicine. I believe there's a connection to overall vitality, energy, clarity, strength, physical strength, but also I would say psychological, emotional strength, i.e. like our ability to deal with life and reality. There's an aspect of our digestion and nutrition, and there is an aspect of, how would we say, proper tone of our tissues when we are in a state of, how do you feel when you feel deficient, when you feel weak, when you feel like you're lacking vitality? Are you going to be, sitting up proper, right? Or are you just going to be kind of like, ugh, right? Like a floppy, limp noodle, right? Any parents out there, about when your kids turn to jelly, maybe they're having a tough day and they get a little temper tantrumy, or they do I call it the limp noodle, right? Where they just turn into a jellyfish and they're boneless, and they just flop around and you're trying to carry them. And you're like, come on, it's kind of like that, lack of tone. Okay. What we would refer to that as a relaxation tissue state. Okay. When the tissues have lost their structural tonicity, their tone, their form, their firmness. We also see this in Chinese medicine as a concept of qi deficiency, or really severe, like collapsed qi. But oftentimes in general, qi deficiency, in particular spleen qi deficiency, commonly is associated with kind of holding things upright. We would call that the upright qi, things held in place. This is an expression of vitality when things are held upright, firm, and in their proper place. When there's a lack of vitality, things get loose, things get lazy, things get apathetic, things fall out of place. And I think that's very symbolic. Physically, things fall out of place, maybe prolapse, maybe a hemorrhoid, but things also start to fall out of place in one's life, right? Things slip between the cracks. You're not attending to things very well. So anyways, let's look at the term tonic in this context of herbal medicine. I find there are 4 primary expressions of tonics in herbal tradition, all of which appear to result in this nebulous increased vitality, vigor, and well-being. So let's start by talking about what actually I think should be the most obvious, but actually isn't. And this would be the astringent tonics. So first of all, what is the root of the word tonic? It's tone. It's the tonicity. And what is tone? Well, tone, I'm a musician, right? So I think the tone of an instrument is it's tuned. How is it tuned? So it's a really good analogy for thinking of the tonal quality of a tissue. Is it down-tuned, right? Like on a stringed instrument? Is it loose? Is it flappy? Is it floppy? Has it lost its tone? right? That would be a relaxation tissue or laxity. Things have lost their tone, like I was just describing moments ago. Or is it hypertonic, right? Wound up too tight. That string winds, and then it pop, the string wants to pop, right? That's what we would call a tension tissue state. So you have this polarity in humoral understanding, or to more of an energetic understanding when we're looking at tissue tone. You have hypertonic and hypotonic. You have tension and relaxation. Now, the astringent class of remedy tends to increase the tone of the tissue, right? It tightens. It's going to take a tissue that should be nice and firm and tight and tonified, right? And that tissue has become lax. It's become loose. It's not. It's leaky, right? Like a drippy, runny nose, or postnasal drip, or diarrhea, or a varicose vein, or a hemorrhoid, or a prolapsed organ where the connective tissue is no longer holding it in its proper place. These are all expressions of a relaxed tissue state. And an astringent is typically the general property that we would want to utilize to address that underlying tissue state. So we would say it is tonic, right? It is increasing the tone of the tissue. So when we look at tissue tone, again, we have hypertonic, hypotonic, tension, relaxation. The astringents take the lax hypotonic tissue and increase its tone. It's like tightening that guitar string, right? That's what the astringents do. And so it's going to increase the tone of the tissue. And this is where we see the astringent expression of tonic. Now, I think this is oftentimes in some of the North American traditions of herbalism, you see the word tonic used a lot, right? They often, especially the physiomedicalists, they would kind of describe herbs in almost three fundamental ways. They would have the tonic, they would have the stimulant, and they would have relaxants. And these are all really in a way based off of what we might think of as the ECR cycle, which is a way of describing the neuromuscular junction where the nervous system kind of plugs into the musculoskeletal system. So nerve plugs in, I say plugs in, that's really a medical term right there. The nerve is connected to the muscle, innervates, okay, there's the more proper term. The nerve innervates a muscle fiber. Nerve is stimulated or excited, right? E. So the nerve is excited. The muscle then contracts, C. Okay, so tension, it increases tension. So you have excitation or stimulation. You have contraction or tonic, increasing the tone. And then you have R, relaxation of the muscle and relaxation of the nerve, and that's the relaxation. So excitation, constriction, relaxation, very similar concept. This is kind of like almost, this is herbal systems from like the 1800s, early 1900s. So a bit of more of a rudimentary understanding of the nervous system back then, but it is a valuable model. Stimulation, stimulants, relaxants, and tonics. So this is the way herbs would commonly be defined. Now, if you go into those texts and you're reading about those herbs and you think in your mind, tonic means, maybe you're coming at it from a TCM perspective, or you're thinking in terms of Chinese tonic herbs, and then you read golden seal. Golden seal is tonic. It's like, what? Like, from a TCM perspective of tonic is like, from my understanding, now I'm not a TCM expert, but my understanding of TCM tonic herbs, I don't know if golden seal would really so much qualify. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone knows more about TCM and knows Western herbs, and maybe they think it would. But from my understanding, I don't really think golden seal would think of as a tonic. Also, if we think of it from, if you're approaching thinking of a tonic as something that just enhances overall vigor and well-being, golden seal? I don't know. But if we think of it as increasing tone, tonic increases tone, astringent, there we have it. The tonic astringent. So this is a very important way of thinking about tonic herbs. So especially if you're reading old Western herbals, keep that in mind, man. It really, this was a game changer for me. It really makes a lot of sense if you think of the tonic in that way. So examples of herbs that are astringent tonics. As I said, golden seal, Hydrastis canadensis, very good. A really archetypal in terms of our North American materia medica. Oak bark, Quercus, lots of oaks, but Quercus alba is kind of the official, but there's lots of oaks. They're all astringent, very good, strong astringent. I consider oak like the king of the astringents. It's very strong. Lady's mantle, Alchemilla vulgaris, very nice astringent, female reproductive system herb. Love lady's mantle. It's great. Rosa, of course, great tonic astringent, right? Rose water is a tonic. It's a skin tonic, right? Rose tonic. Witch hazel, of course, the witch hazel extract or liniment, very commonly used as a tonic astringent to tone the skin, right? Also used topically for varicose veins, hemorrhoids, classic tonic astringent. Willow bark, salix, quite astringent. Of course, many other properties, bitter, cooling, good bitter tonic. We'll broach that subject in a moment. Maybe that was a slip, or maybe it was a sneak peek. But willow is a very good example also of an astringent herb. So that is the astringent tonics, category 1 of our tonics. Category number 2. Well, the concept of tonification, I would say, is a pretty unique aspect of herbal medicine that really differentiates it from practice of more conventional allopathic medicine. And I would argue that the concept of tonification, rejuvenation, revitalization type preventative medicine is one of the powerful aspects of vitalism, which I would say is the golden thread that unites the great herbal traditions of the world together. And that's why I am also very excited to announce to you that next week, starting on September 22nd, is our Vitalist Herbalism mini course. This is a 100% free workshop series where I'm going to be going in depth on how vitalism and incorporating the principles, the practices, and the philosophy of vitalism can drastically and radically transform your approach to plants, to working with people, and to your overarching understanding of herbal medicine. So be sure to click the link in the description below to get on the waiting list, be first in line to join. We release the first workshop next Monday, and it's running for 1 week only. So be sure to check it out while you can. This is, again, 100% free workshop series. We only do this one once a year, so be sure to join it next week, 9/22, Vitalist Herbalism mini course. I look forward to seeing you there, answering your questions and your comments, and looking forward to sharing these more in-depth workshops with you. And with that, let's get back to talking about the concept of herbal tonics. Category number 2 would be the nutritive tonics. This is a common one you'll see amongst your materia medica books. Nutritive tonics, right? Now, this one makes a bit of sense if we are approaching it with our very vague, general nebulous definition of tonics, and that it enhances vigor and well-being. Well, nutritive. You supply the body with more nutrients that it needs to function properly. You will generally feel healthier, right? Sometimes it's a subtle difference in feeling. Sometimes if you're really deficient in something, though, and you, become replete in that nutrient, you'll notice a difference. if you're deficient in magnesium and you're walking around and you got little eye twitches and a muscle twitch here, and you have a hard time sleeping at night, and maybe you tend to be a little spasmodic, right? You tend to be hypertonic, right? More of a tension type tissue state as opposed to the relaxation tissue state I was just talking about. If you're depleted in magnesium and you become replete in magnesium, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better. You're going to feel way, way better but you're going to feel more vital. You're typically going to feel more energy too, because magnesium is an essential part of the TCA cycle or Krebs cycle, that being manufacturing of cellular energy in the form of ATP. So the nutritive tonics. So these are herbs that dwell on that edge between herbal medicine and food. Some of these are really, in a way, food herbs, but oftentimes these are nutritive tonic in that they usually are very rich in minerals. Some of them will have a lot of vitamins but it's usually minerals and trace elements is what we find most predominant in the herbs that are typically classified as being nutritive tonics. So a really cool lesson that I learned, again, from Paul Bergner, one of my teachers in herbal medicine, was this analogy of the alphabet. And I really like this analogy. It made a lot of sense. And so I use it a lot. Thank you again to you, Mr. Bergner. I'll forever be tipping my hat to you because you're very influential. So if you guys are not familiar with the work of Paul Bergner, I highly encourage you to check out his materials, particularly his home study programs, audio courses, just really good stuff. But so Paul gives us an analogy of that our biochemistry is it's like an alphabet, right? And all of those little nutrients, all those little trace elements, those minerals, those amino acids, they all are letters in an alphabet. And our biochemical processes in our body are like a language. And when all the letters of the alphabet are present, everything hums along very nicely. All of our biochemistry works properly, and the language of the body can express itself. Now, say you are missing the letter A and the letter E and the letter O, like 3 primary vowels of the English language. It's going to be really, really hard for you to speak the English language or write the English language without those 3 vowels. It's very similarly true to our biochemistry and our nutritional status. If we are missing specific nutrients, some of which you don't really need that much of, right? Think copper or boron or, right, these trace elements. You don't need a lot of them, but you need them. And if you don't have them, something can go wrong. And so the nutritive tonics are really seen as filling in those micronutrient deficiencies. Obviously, they're not going to be providing macronutrients like fat, carbohydrate, and protein. That's what food is for. The nutritive tonics are those that fill in the nutrient gaps that we may not be getting from our diet. Now, this is really important because, modern food is really deficient. If you look at the numbers of nutrients in food today, at the recording of this in 2025, you compare that to the nutrient status of food, half a century ago, it's like just tanking, right? And this has everything to do really with conventional farming practices, monoculture, and the way that food is grown on the industrial scale. This tends to strip nutrients out of the soil. And this is how, the plains of the Midwest have been completely stripped of the topsoil, and, become pretty darn barren. So nutritional status of the soil goes down, nutritional status of the plants goes down, nutritional status of the people go down, health, vitality, and vigor go down. So the nutritive tonics are tonic in the sense that they are increasing the nutritional status of the person, which will enable the biochemical processes of the body to function better, which will generally increase your well-being, right? We need to be optimally nourished to be healthy. This is like, like health 101, like eat good food, optimally nourish yourself. Your body needs nutrients to function well. Make sure you're providing it with those nutrients because a lot of those nutrients must be brought in from exogenous sources. Now, one of the interesting things that I noticed when studying the nutritive tonic materia medica is that most, not all, but most of herbs classified as nutritive tonic are also mildly astringent. And I started noticing this theme. I was like, wait a minute, all these herbs that are nutritive, really mineral rich, also have a degree of astringency to them. And so it's like the tonic part, I was like, well, maybe the tonic part is referring to there. It's like actually two in one. It's nutritive tonic. One part it's nutritive. The other part is it's tonifying. It's a little bit astringent. But I also think if we consider, again, that definition of tonic of just kind of enhancing general well-being, if you're increasing nutritional status and helping someone become more replete, they're going to just feel better. So nutritive tonics, category number 2. Some good examples would be alfalfa, medicago sativum, oat straw. That would be Vina sativa. That's the straw of oats or the oat grass. The milky seed head typically is similar here in that it's nutritive and mineral rich. Now, just a little side note here about milky oats. Milky oat seed, when tinctured fresh, is like a whole other remedy. That is your nerve tropho-restorative par excellence, right? It's like the best, most amazing remedy to replenish, nourish, strengthen, revitalize the nervous system is the milky oat seed. But dried milky oat, I mention this because I see this all the time of people, putting dried milky oat seed in tea blends and then saying it's going to be really good for the nervous system. It's not. It's going to be a great mineral rich herb. But once that milky white latex in milky oat seed dries out, it loses a lot of that nervous system tropho-restorative effect. So just a little side note there. Raspberry leaf, of course, classic. Rubus idaeus. Nettle leaf, pretty important one there. Urtica dioica, and horsetail Equisetum arvens. These are all super mineral rich, and pretty much all of those are mildly astringent. I would say oat straw maybe is not particularly astringent. I find alfalfa to be maybe a little bit astringent. Raspberry leaf, nettle leaf, horsetail, definitely astringent. And I'll just mention too, the nutritional status of herbs is also going to really depend on where they're grown, the nature of the soil where they're grown. So you're going to see a lot of variants of this. Like these are kind of your staple nutritive herbs, but in all honesty, all herbs have a degree of minerals in them, right? This is apparent as for me as a spagyricist. When we're preparing herbs in the lab and burning them and seeing all the alkali mineral salts, it's like, well, there's all the minerals. Like, yeah, that's a lot of minerals. It's clear all herbs have a lot of minerals. Most of them are potassium salts, but you get lots of different other forms of minerals in plants and trace elements. So that's category 2, nutritive tonics. Third category is bitter tonics. This is always the one that really confused me. It's like, how is a bitter tonic? How is a bitter enhancing health? Like bitters tend to be cold, draining, drying, you don't usually feel like, haha, I feel so vigorous after taking that bitter tonic, right? It's usually like, whoa, that tastes horrible, right? But okay, like I don't feel like so bloated anymore. That's nice. So why bitter tonic? Because there's lots of bitter remedies. Many of them are not astringent in any way. So we can't really make that connection like we make between nutritive tonics and astringent tonics, where a lot of the nutritive ones happen to be mildly astringent. The bitter tonics are not that way. So what do bitter tonics do? So generally we think bitter tonics do lots of things, but the general property of a bitter tonic is that it's stimulating digestion. It's enhancing the body's capacity to digest, absorb, and assimilate nutrients on the more anabolic side. So that would be affecting stomach, small, large intestine, depending on how bitter the herb is, pancreatic enzyme secretion, liver bile production, gallbladder bile secretion, the full primary and secondary digestive apparatus is just optimized for digestion, okay? That's more what I think of as the anabolic side of bitters. There's also the more, I guess, quote, catabolic side of some bitters, not all. Some bitter herbs tend to be more on the anabolic side. Some herbs tend to be more on the catabolic side. That would be more of the alteratives, like the really, usually the really strong bitter alternative, which would be cleansing, detoxifying, purifying the channels of elimination kind of remedies. Here, where I'm thinking more of that first type, of the type that enhance digestion. So if you think of it, if you enhance digestion, well, over the long term, that's going to enhance vigor and well-being, because if you're digesting, absorbing, and assimilating your food better, you're enhancing your nutritional status, which is essentially what we just talked about with the nutritive tonics. So that's the way I see this concept of tonification applying to the bitters. It's more of a longer-term resultant effect. It's not that the bitter tonics in and of themselves give you more vitality. It's that they are enhancing your digestion, therefore making you more replete in nutrition theoretically, which will then in turn enhance overall health and well-being. Now, I think it's interesting to note, this is another area we see the word tonic used, which is tonic water, right? I was always really confused. For a while, I thought tonic water was just carbonated water. And I just thought it was bubbly water. And I remember one time someone was like, oh, would you like a tonic water? I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, bubbles sounds kind of nice. And I remember taking a big swig and I was just like, whoa, it was like super bitter. And I was like, what the hell is this? Why would anyone drink this? And I didn't know what tonic water was, right? I was never really much of a cocktail kind of a guy. And I ended up going into it, and as I saw the word tonic, I was like, what's up with that? When I was in my little tonic rabbit hole. And so classically, tonic water was created from quinine, which is originally from cinchona bark, which was a way to basically sterilize water. It would be a malaria preventative. Cinchona and quinine, that was a main anti-malarial medicine. And you put it in the water and it makes the water cleaner and, makes it so that you can drink it. Also as a prophylactic. The bitterness of quinine tonic water became a part of the base of as like a cocktail mixer, for example, like a gin and tonic. But this was classically a prophylactic against malaria, but it's called tonic water because it was bitter, right? And so this dynamic of bitterness as being somehow tonifying to the system, you're going to enhance that vitality through optimizing digestion. Now, I just need to every time I talk about bitters, I got to mention that excessive use or misuse of bitters can actually in the long run be damaging to the GI in the sense of cold. Bitters tend to be cold, dry plants. So, you got to be a little bit careful because they can, of course, stimulate digestion. But if you're constantly stimulating digestion with bitter herbs, eventually you're going to overstimulate it. And then it's like the pendulum shifts. And now your digestion is weak, cold, deficient, and can't be stimulated. And that we would refer to as basically cold damage to the digestion from misuse of bitters. Some examples. My favorite is, I love dandelion. I'm a pretty simple guy. I like dandelion as a bitter. I think it's very reliable. The root I like because it's a little sweet and bitter. I think it's also very nutritive. Dandelion is actually a really good example of just an overall tonic plant because it's nutritive and mineral rich, and it is bitter. So it's going to really have a pretty tonifying effect on the system. The leaf tends to be a little more kidney diuretic. The root is a little more liver, but very nice bitter tonic. Artichoke is one that I have really grown to love and appreciate quite a bit too. I like artichoke. I mean, I like it as a food, but the leaf as a medicine is a very good bitter tonic for digestion. Also good liver, protective, cholesterol, triglyceride, metabolic syndrome kind of pattern. Blessed thistle, very nice bitter. Oregon grape, gentian. These are all very nice, good, reliable bitter tonics. Strongest one there I would say is gentian. Gentian's very, very bitter. And I guess I would note there too that it's very common that bitters are mixed with carminatives, warming aromatic carminative herbs to prevent that imbalance of cold damage. Just warm it up like classic gentian and ginger. That's a very good way to balance that out. Okay, last category is the vital tonics. This is what I'm calling vital tonics. So this is where we get into, I guess I would say, more of a Chinese concept of tonification, because in their system, tonifying to be a tonic or a tonifying herb or a tonifying therapy appears to be something that directly strengthens, nourishes, perhaps we could say optimizes the structure and function of a particular organ or tissue of the body. Now, it's worth mentioning Chinese concepts of organs are different than Western concepts. They are physioenergetic, I would say, in nature, not necessarily centrally located, like this is the liver. It's more like a system. The way that it seems to work in traditional Chinese medicine, from my understanding, is we have, yang and yin, the primal duality, coupled with a particular organ tonic. So we would say you have, say, kidney yin tonics, kidney yang tonics, liver yin tonics, liver yang tonics, spleen qi tonics. So you have kind of yin, yang, and qi. You also have blood. So blood tonics or blood tonification as general categories of tonics in Chinese medicine. So I think of these as vital tonics because the way they are working is through, again, nourishing and strengthening a very particularized attribute of the body. Now, the way I kind of differentiate the vital tonics is that we could say there are specific vital tonics, those, like I just described, that focus on a very particular organ system, tissue of the body. And then you have your more, I guess, global or constitutional vital tonics that are going to be a little more, systemic in their attributes. So those global ones, the global, more constitutional vital tonics, I would say we could closely relate to the adaptogens, right? It's important to differentiate here though, because Chinese tonic herbs is a very broad and yet specific in many ways category. Adaptogen. So not all adaptogens are necessarily tonic herbs in the TCM sense, and certainly not all TCM tonifying herbs are adaptogens. So, for example, you have blood tonics, herbs that build blood. In Chinese medicine, those would not be considered adaptogens. That said, we could say many of the adaptogenic herbs, not all, but many of the adaptogenic herbs as we define them in Western herbalism, would be closely related to the kidney tonics in Chinese medicine. Like a lot of the adaptogens tend to influence kidney yin, kidney yang. Not all of them, but many of them appear to do so. So I like to think of the adaptogens as being more the global vital tonics. They're doing this by affecting global organ systems in the body. So not a single targeted organ system like the liver or the stomach, but it's more the systemic system. So the nervous system, the endocrine system, especially. So many of them are particularly influencing the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the autonomic nerve function, balance of sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. Many times they are nourishing, replenishing, revitalizing. I mean, if you take enough of an adaptogen, you typically, this is one where you can actually kind of feel it, right? You feel health, vigor, and well-being. So like a well-prepared adaptogen herb or formula, typically you will notice that feeling of increased well-being, vigor, mental clarity, perhaps less fatigued, etc., which I think is probably why they're so popular these days. Many times they're working on the immune system as well, but they, if used properly, are not overly stimulating. They should be nourishing and rebuilding and restoring in function, which to me is a very nice kind of expression of that tonic virtue. Now, vital tonic, we can also translate that into what I think of as organ-specific trophorestoratives in Western herbal medicine. So this would be those herbs that are like a food for a particular organ, and they just have this unique effect for rebuilding it, restoring it from damage, from oxidative damage, from just years of abuse. Oftentimes, they can help to repair it from, repair an organ from inflammatory damage, autoimmune damage, things like that. So these would be herbs like, for example, herbs like milk thistle as a hepatic trophorestorative. I mentioned earlier milky oats as a nerve trophorestorative. We have hawthorn as a cardiac trophorestorative. You could replace the word trophorestorative with tonic, right? A heart tonic, a liver tonic, a nerve tonic, a kidney tonic. So these are more of the organ-specific tonics, which would be our closest thing I would say we have in our Western equivalent to the TCM concepts of, say, a liver yang tonic or a liver yin tonic, etc. They're a bit different, but many of these are similar in concept in that they are nourishing, restoring, and strengthening the structure function of a particular organ. So those are some examples of organ-specific trophorestoratives or tonics. The global vital tonics or the adaptogens, examples there. I'm sure many of you have heard, things like American ginseng or, Panax quinquefolius, Asian ginseng, Panax ginseng. You've got rhodiola, rosea. You've got Eleutherococcus senticosus, aka Siberian ginseng. Ashwagandha, of course, very popular these days, Withania somnifera. Cordyceps, Ophiocordyceps sinensis or militaris, really nice. Cordyceps is cool because it's adaptogen, global, but also very specific as well. Specific trophorestorative to the lung, also specific trophorestorative to the kidney. Very good autoimmune kidney disease, glomerulonephritis, and things like that. So tonic. Do you feel like tonic is a little less confusing now? I hope so. I hope you enjoyed exploring the dynamics and territory of the word tonic. And hopefully from now on, when you see that word, you'll have a little bit of a framework in place and an understanding how the herb you're looking at specifically is a tonic, right? Is it a astringent tonic? Is it a nutritive tonic? Is it a bitter tonic? Is it a vital tonic? If it's a vital tonic, is it global, more adaptogenic kind of tonic? Or is it more of an organ-specific type tropho-restorative tonic? Either way, all of these remedies really point towards, again, that same mountaintop that we're striving for, which is to simply have a greater level of health and vitality and promote longevity, hopefully prevent disease, and live a happy, wonderful, healthy life. So hopefully what you learned today helps you to do that yourself and to support your clients, your clinic, the people that you serve in your pocket of the world a little bit better. So thank you so much for joining me here in this episode of The Plant Path. If you're watching anywhere other than Evolutionary Herbalism, head on over to evolutionaryherbalism.com. Be sure to join our newsletter list so you can get the announcement for when we are publishing new content, which is generally happening on a weekly-ish basis. You'll get all the announcements for when we're enrolling in one of our programs or memberships, where we usually have free workshop series, free webinars, more in-depth training over there, and usually some special bonuses happening when you sign up for a course during our enrollment periods. So also want to thank you for liking and subscribing this video and the channel if you're on the podcast somewhere or if on YouTube. Really do appreciate those subs. They really help support the channel. They help us continue to be able to publish content for the herbal community for free. So thanks for the likes, thanks for the subscribes, thanks for the comments. It really helps with algorithms and all those things I don't understand. But thank you. I really do appreciate the support. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of The Plant Path. Be sure to tune in next time. And until then, take care and be well.